Alright, so this is for the lesson for 10.4, but I'm going to kind of go over what's in your packet really quick in case you don't remember or something doesn't make sense. So you have a graphing functions worksheet, which is front and back. Okay, you're supposed to still just do the normal things of finding the vertex, the axis of symmetry, telling me if it opens up or down, and then actually just graphing it on the axis. Don't forget you have to find at least one other point and then go equal distance on the other side of the axis of symmetry, but that should all be reviewed at this point. So, that's our worksheet. This next worksheet here is going to go with what I'm about to go over for you. Okay, it's dealing with square roots. So finding the square roots of each number, evaluating each expression, and rounding to decimal places when necessary. So I'll highlight for you on this worksheet which ones should be done in a calculator by hand, or that you should be able to do by hand. Let's see. This moving words worksheet, okay, I know it's a little bit sideways, but I'd rather be able to see it. I guess I can turn it this way, you still be able to see it. But it is essentially doing the same thing. You're solving the equation, or the basically using the square roots that we'll go over in a minute. So this will be a little bit more in depth, so you'll want to wait and do that one after you've done some of the homework problems first. Solving quadratic equations by finding square roots. Again, this one is just going to be a little bit more in depth. I'd wait on this one until you've done some of those other worksheets and problems from the book. You have a quadratic formula worksheet, which will be for next week. All the quadratic formula stuff will be due in another week. So you can kind of just ignore that one for right now. And same thing for this, what is a metaphor worksheet that you have, and for this, what do you call it when somebody spends 20 years in the 24th row of a theater. So, just so that way you are aware of that. But we're going to do a little quick run through of 10.4 so that you have that to help you out as you need it. So 10.4, sorry. Alright, so 10.4 is use square roots to solve quadratic equations. Alright, so we did skip 10.3 briefly. I would rather try to cover that in class if we get a chance. If for some reason we don't, I may try to do it through a video or something, but might just wait and not cover that. It's not as critical right now. So the first key thing, solving x squared equals d by taking square roots. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and draw this little coordinate over here, and I'm going to draw a parabola on it with the vertex at the origin. And then we're going to have some points here. And we'll show what these are for in just a minute. Go ahead and make the line, and then we'll fill it in here. That's the line I almost wanted to write. And then the orange. Alright, so now we can actually fill in these different things over here on the left-hand side, and then we'll show where they are on the right-hand side. Alright, so first, if d is greater than 0, then x squared is equal to d, has two solutions. They are x is equal to plus or minus the square root of d. So whatever d is, we always say plus or minus. So when you think square root, you're taking the square root of something and saying x is equal to something. It's always plus or minus, plus or minus, plus or minus, plus or minus. So ingrain that in your head. That's probably the most common mistake made in math. If I had to guess, I think that was my most common mistake. It's always plus or minus that value. So for d greater than 0, that would be this line here. Okay, there's 2 points, and that's where we have those 2 points. The next one, if d is equal to 0, then x squared is equal to d has one solution, and that would be that x is equal to 0. So if you want to take a guess, x is equal to 0 right here. Or actually, I should say d is equal to 0, so we can stay with the thing here. D is equal to 0. Then x is equal to 0. Alright, and the last one, if d is less than 0, then x squared is equal to d has no solution. Alright, so you have examples in your books and all of that, so I'm just going to go through and do a few of the homework problems for you, and then probably kind of wrap up this video there with that. So the first things that you have are solving equations. So the instructions just say to solve the equation. Alright, so let's just start with something relatively easy here. Before we actually do one of those ones, let's just show what happens when I have something like x squared is equal to 14. So this is just an example here before, or sorry, 16. I don't know what I'm thinking. 16. Okay, so I need x by itself. So to undo a square, okay, I take the square root. Let me write that here so you have it. To undo a square, take the square root. Okay, so you're doing the opposite, basically. So taking the square root, so x is equal to the square root of 16. Okay, and remember, that plus or minus has to be there. Well, the square root of 16 is 4, so x is equal to plus or minus 4. So this is really just a matter of thinking back and solving for x, okay? Now, let's see. Number 4, 2x squared minus 32 is equal to 0. Alright, so we need to, in order to solve for x, we need to first add the 32 over. So 2x is equal to 32. Oops, sorry, 2x squared, leave it halfway squared. You need to divide by 2. X squared is equal to 16. And now, we're back where we started. So we get x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 16. So x is equal to plus or minus 4. Let's see here. And so, looking back at our chart at the top, this was the case where d was greater than 0. Okay, if you want to see, because it gave us the 2 solutions. Okay, so this is just for your information. You aren't required to write that down or anything. Let's see. Number 8. A squared plus 8 is equal to 3. Alright, so in order to solve for a, I first need to subtract the 8 over. So a squared is equal to negative 5. Uh-oh. I now have a negative. So when d is less than 0, x squared is equal to d has no solution. So there is no solution. Okay, so I would have to write that. I can't just stop. I would say no solution. Okay, that would be my answer, is no solution. And this is because we have d less than 0, which is no solution. Alright, so moving on now, let's look at trying to get a good one here. Well, we're going to end up doing an odd one here because I want to make sure you see something. So 13, 3z squared minus 18 is equal to negative 18. Alright, so to solve for z, I need to move this negative 18 over to the other side. I do that by adding. So I get 3z squared is equal to, well, negative 18 plus 18 is 0, meaning z squared is equal to 0, meaning that it's just going to be equal to 0. So z is equal to 0. Okay, the square root of 0 is 0. And this is the case then where d is equal to 0. And we have one solution. Alright, and we'll be wrapping this up here in just a moment. We got one more little section of stuff to go over. And these will involve your calculator here. Actually, we have two more little things we need to go over. So we'll have to grab a calculator and look at that. Alright, so with the next section, it says solve the equation and round to the nearest hundredth. Alright, so with this one, something like 18, okay, we have x squared plus 11 is equal to 24. So we subtract 11, x squared is equal to 24 minus 11 is 13. I need to grab my calculator for these ones really quick. Alright, so, and you're welcome to use whatever calculator you have. That should be pretty simple. It's doing some other stuff there you saw with Algebra 2 yesterday. Alright, so I need to take the square root of 13. So x is equal to, remember, plus or minus the square root of 13. So on your calculator, if you have the one like mine, okay, you find the x squared button, and right above it is the square root button. So you hit second, and then the square root, and it's of 13. And it would be we're going out to two decimal places, so 3.61. So plus or minus 3.61. Alright, let's see here. Let's do one more. Let's do one that's a little bit more involved. 28, 9n squared minus 14 is equal to negative 3. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is I need to add the 14 over. So 9n squared is equal to, well, negative 3 plus 14 is is positive 11. So n squared is equal to, I need to divide by 9, 11 over 9. And now you take the square root, so n is equal to plus or minus the square root of 11 over 9. So, second, the square root button, 11 divided by 9, and make sure it's all underneath. Okay, the other option would have been to do the 11 over 9 first, and then just take the square root of that. And that is 1.11, because we round up. So n is equal to plus or minus 1.11. Alright, and one last thing we need to look at here, just so that you have it for that one worksheet, is the stuff, solving the equation and rounding to the nearest hundredth again. Okay, but they get a little bit more in depth here when we jump to something like 34. So this will be the last one, because these we won't spend as much time with. 6 times x plus 4 squared is equal to 18. So the first thing I need to do, okay, I have to divide by 6. So x plus 4 squared is equal to 18 divided by 6 is 3. I need to then, okay, this whole piece is being squared, so I can't do anything with the inside yet, so I need to take the square root of the whole thing. So x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 3. Okay, and then I need to subtract 4, so x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 3, and you can leave your answers that way. Okay, or you can plug it into your calculator and get a decimal. If we were to do that, we would get negative 4 plus the square root of 3, which is minus 2.27, because we're rounding. Okay, or I could do the other way, negative 4 minus the square root of 3, which is negative 5.73. So either of those two answers there. So we have to write both of them. They're different. Sorry, that was supposed to be a 7. I just kind of scratched it out there. Alright, so your homework from this section. Okay, and don't stress about this type too much. I'm not as worried about that type as I am the other ones. So your homework for this section, so you'll need to turn in, is 3 through 13 odd, 17 through 27 odd, and then from that last section that's a little harder, 33 and 35. Alright, so those will be your last problems, and if you have questions, feel free to contact me and I will do the best that I can to help you in a timely manner.